Hello, space friends. Captain Snuggles here, back for some more public beta gameplay from X4 Foundations. You have already had the honor and the privilege of seeing my personal piloting skills, but in this game, personal piloting only gets you so far. So, this time, we're going to be checking out the performance of an AI-controlled fleet against the Xenon Scourge. Specifically, we will be pitting this fleet here against an invasion force from the Endgame Crisis. The Endgame Crisis is a new feature in this patch, and it involves fighting invaders all across the universe, which basically guarantees that you'll be leaving the defense of at least some sectors up to the AI. So, is the new and improved Beta 7 AI up to the challenge? Now, luckily enough, I have some archived footage that will help answer that question. A Xenon fleet invaded one of my backwater sectors that was defended by this fleet, the Motley Armada. It is true to its name. It is a hodgepodge of various ships, which you can see here, the diversity in designs. It's a hodgepodge of various ships that I've captured over the course of my campaign. It's mostly destroyers, with an Asgard-class battleship as the flagship, and in this video at least, a small wing of fighters as an escort. Now, to give an overview of those ships, the Asgard is an iconic ship, blatantly overpowered in the player's hands, and still extremely strong under AI control. The destroyers, on the other hand, are all decent, but a lot of their models are obsolete, and they're all equipped with just whatever I could happen to fit on them at the time that I captured them. Then the fighter wing is good, but it's not big enough. As for the fleet setup, I would call it rudimentary at best. Most of these ships are just in the attack role, the most basic role there is, and they're arranged in a pretty simple circle formation around the flagship. To top it all off, I've really only used this fleet for storing captured ships that I didn't have another use for, and so it's only seen light combat in backwater systems, which means that the captains and crews are not especially experienced or especially skilled. So, to sum it all up, we have a pretty strong fleet on paper with a pretty weak setup and decent crews. So, mediocre on average. And I think that makes it a great choice for a test, especially considering its value. It is worth maybe 300 million credits, and the Endgame Crisis begins when the player's military value reaches 500 million credits, meaning that this would be most, but not all, of the player's combat strength. So, given all that, I think it's totally reasonable to expect that a player would leave this fleet in the AI's hands while they were off flying their own personal flagship in some other battle. So again, a great test fleet. Now, what exactly are we testing? Well, the AI has historically had three major issues when flying capital ships. So, first off, it is extremely bad, historically, at using the fixed forward-facing main batteries. That right there. Second, it has historically been bad at staying in formation. This nice, neat circle would quickly turn into a jumbled mess. Third, the AI has always responded pretty slowly to damage and tends to die in situations where a player could easily have retreated. Now, I will say with a proper fleet setup and highly skilled crews, I have seen in this patch that all three of those issues are very much improved from the olden days. But do those improvements remain consistent with this fleet? Well, let's load up that footage and find out. So here we are on the bridge of the flagship. The Xenon invaders have just jumped into the system, and the Motley Armada is moving to greet them. I have my flagship, 16 of my 20 destroyers, and 10 heavy fighters available to meet the invaders. They're going up against one big imposing I-class battleship, 3 K-class capital ships, and a huge escort wing, 9 corvettes and 27 fighters. Now, the balance of power, my fleet, the Motley Armada, has a healthy advantage in capital firepower, but the escort wing is hopelessly outnumbered. All told, I would say that the Motley Armada has a comfortable advantage. Not a huge advantage, but a comfortable advantage in overall firepower. But the fighter deficiency could become a real problem. I'm doing my best to leave this entirely in the AI's hands. If I just left them on patrol duty like this, eventually my fleet would engage the enemy. But right now they are just slightly outside of the standard engagement range, and so they would wander around a bit more, and I'm really trying to get them to go ahead and engage each other. So here in a moment I'm going to issue a couple of orders to basically poke these guys with the stick and say, hey, come on, fight. So here we go. I'm trying to just sort of inch my fleet closer, get them into the engagement window with the Xenon, and then turn everything over to the AI again to keep it as impartial as possible. Now, the issue, potentially, is going to be the Xenon fighters breaking through my fighter screen and disrupting my formation. In previous patches, especially a few versions ago, it would have been very easy for this fleet to get jumbled, get out of formation, get disrupted by the incoming fighters, and essentially end up trickling into the Xenon capital ships, sort of one at a time, instead of concentrating firepower, and then just being easy pickings, essentially. I think that's still a very real threat, and it's really going to be up to my AI commander here, and the individual captains of the ships, as well as to my heroic fighter screen, to try to prevent that from happening. Because if my fleet can stay in this circle formation for at least a little while after the battle starts, they'll be able to apply all their firepower really well and really hammer this handful of Xenon capital ships. Especially if they can maintain formation at range, because my ships do outrange the Xenon ships by just a little bit. But again, if the formation's disrupted and the Xenon can get in range without facing concentrated fire from my ships, that's going to be trouble. And things were already off to a rocky start, as the interceptors, the fighter wing, has gone in first, charged into the fray, while the capital ships are still setting up. And so right now I just have 10 fighters fighting the entire Xenon armada. And you can see the fireworks starting. I've already lost one heavy fighter, one she. And the rest are under heavy, heavy fire.
Okay.
Looks like another one just went down. And another. Yep, this is absolutely trouble. And to make matters worse, the Xenon escorts have just swarmed past my outnumbered fighters and are on top of my flagship. But my ships are actually staying in formation. There might be a little bit of friendly fire going on, but my formation is not disrupted, which is great. My commander is calling back the escort wing as well to hopefully screen some of these Xenon fighters off of my ships. So after that rocky start, things are, well, not looking terrible. Now I am messing with my fighter wing a little bit, I will admit, but not too much. Now I finally removed the last of my orders, and it is entirely in the AI's hands now. So, let's see how they do. I'm just trying to rescue my fighter pilots while the AI does its thing. Now that I've turned them totally loose, they are starting to break formation somewhat, but they are still loosely in a ring, and they have not gotten too spread out. So, everything's still okay so far, but you can see that eye slipping through the asteroids like a shark, closing in back in the background there. That's going to be the real test, is the engagement with the eye. See how many ships I lose in the process. Or if my guys can actually use their range advantage and focus it down before it gets here. They are shooting at it. Those blue-white plasma balls are mine. Now you're starting to see it return fire with those light red graviton shots. It's taking some big hits, but it is already absolutely pummeling one of my destroyers. You can see now that it's closed range, my ships are trying to pull back, get out of its range. But with the amount of shots that Phoenix is taking, yeah. Too late for that.
Phoenix, Vanguard.
I, once again, can't help meddling a little bit. Order my Phoenix to flee, but it doesn't make any difference. The eye is taking serious damage, but it has charged into my fleet. It is really hammering down on my flagship. You can see secondary explosions as turrets are destroyed, but you can see a lot more secondary explosions on the eye as it goes down. But it did buy enough time for the Ks to get in range, at least the first two, and they're starting to tear into the top half of my formation, which once again is attempting to turn around at full range. But I see a behemoth up there, one of my destroyers getting absolutely torn into by 2 Ks. 1 K is exploding, but so is my behemoth. Still, one of my destroyers for 1 K is not a bad trade. And I still see most of my ships firing, which is good. I only see a couple that are using their main batteries, but still, in this chaotic of a battle, it's not too bad.
Behemoth, Vanguard, Odysseus, Eve. She.
Second K is down. There's just one more to go.
Behemoth, Sentinel. Behemoth, Vanguard. K.
But it's not going down without a fight. It destroyed one more of my destroyers, and looks like it's probably going to take one more down before it goes down itself. And there you have it. That is the battle as the last K goes down. It got pretty dang intense. And there were some pros and cons to the AI, but man, look at that carnage. That is so cool. Not cool for my crews, but cool for us spectators. I believe the final scorecard was all of the Xenon wiped out at the cost of 4 destroyers and 3 heavy fighters on my side, which all in all is really not bad. I think that's a totally acceptable level of losses given the balance of power at the start of the fight, the weakness of my fleet comp, and sort of the overall situation. I think that's totally acceptable. I think, yeah, the Motley Armada gave a good account of itself. The Beta 7 AI gave a good account of itself. I think that in versions 5 and before especially, I would have taken a lot more losses if I'd won at all. So I'm pretty happy about that. Of course, there's still room for improvement, but overall I'm happy with the performance. I think that in particular, the fleet was much better at staying in formation, having most of the ships stay engaged, get most of their firepower on the target. Yeah, I'm reasonably happy with it. I will say the in-game crisis does require pretty mobile fleets, and this is not a mobile fleet. You sort of have to get lucky like I did to actually get an engagement like this. But if a Xenon fleet did happen to jump into an AI-controlled fleet like this one, I'm pretty confident in the AI's abilities. And that's it for this test. So, with all that said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you will tune in next time. And until then, this is Captain Snuggles, signing off.